Presiding Officer, in speaking in this debate today, I would want first to acknowledge and pay tribute to all those who have continued to work on the front line throughout this crisis, providing key services and goods to meet the basic needs of the population. This could not have been easy when considering the threat of an unknown and deadly virus, but the shop workers, the food producers, the drivers, the cleaners and of course our frontline care staff all deserve recognition and thanks. And is it not ironic that amongst all these workers we have some of the most undervalued and underpaid within our economy? So in looking at how we restart and rebuild the economy, we must not simply want to get back to where we were, for where we were was not so good. And indeed, the lack of resilience within the economy has been exposed like never before with this virus. Low pay is not just bad for those poorly paid, it is bad for the whole economy. So any detailed plan being brought forward by the government must at its core be built on ending low pay in our economy. And that is also true of an economy that is built on and dependent on people and businesses running up unsustainable amounts of debt. Spice have reported that unsecured consumer credit across the UK reduced by £3.8 billion in March 2020, compared to an average monthly increase of £1 billion for the previous 12 months. So there must surely be a realisation that you cannot build and maintain a successful economy based on consumer debt. It is Tory dogma, private debt good, public debt bad, that has in this pandemic fallen apart. And that is why Scottish Labour does support the view that this Parliament must have greater ability to borrow to invest in Scotland's future. Government borrowing to invest in the economy is something that must happen and is key to any recovery plan. I also note that Commonweal, in their recent publication on the way forward, calls for the Scottish National Investment Bank to be given immediate dispensation from the UK Treasury to be recognised as a proper bank and as such can invest to stimulate the Scottish economy. Last week I asked the Finance Secretary to bring forward a paper outlining where further powers are required, and I do hope that she will do so in order that we can get on the same page of understanding how the Government intends to move forward in this economic crisis. I would have to say, however, that the Government's record on investing and supporting companies in, for example, offshore wind, has not resulted in jobs for Scotland. Indeed, it would seem every country but Scotland. It is a disgrace that we have yards in Methil, Burnt Island and Stornoway lying empty when the work to build the wind farms around the coast of Scotland is going everywhere but Scotland. I read recently that the French Finance Minister has told the car industry in France that the state will stand by them, but on the condition that the vehicle production is gradually repatriated to French shores. It is not simply the state putting money in for the profiteers to take the rewards, but the state must increasingly have a greater role within the economy and ensure that the rewards are distributed and remain within the economy. Can I also make clear that the current financial framework is putting an enormous pressure on Scotland's finances and must be renegotiated? How any government putting Scotland's interests first could have signed up to this is somewhat baffling, and this must be addressed. It will also be important that we learn from the last financial crash, and the greatest lesson from that is that failed Tory austerity must not and never be again an option. The Tories' decision to impose deep austerity on the least able did not just cause human misery, it actually damaged and held back economic growth. Failed Tory austerity also resulted in a situation where frontline public services were not in any shape to face a global pandemic, and it is only down to the dedication and commitment of frontline workers that we have been able to struggle through this last period. And that is why the Scottish Government must recognise the very real financial pressures and difficulties that councils up and down Scotland have. If we want to open up our schools, if we open up our councils, will require far greater finance than they have to date. There needs to be a clear commitment to put more funding into education and into other areas within the economy that we want to get moving. We also must recognise the role of local government in driving the economy, and that is why, Presiding Officer, in concluding, I would say that there must be a new relationship, a new deal between local and central government with a common objective of driving forward the economy in a sustainable way. Thank you.